Your soulmate is insane. They're not able to acknowledge that you appear similar to a my darling child. Avoid skipping because you are going to. This isn't what your soulmate was ready for. They thought they comprehended every emotion in their hearts, all of the reasons. They continued to think of you every. They attempted to conceal their feelings. However, one unanticipated discovery destroyed everything they thought was. Indeed. They examined your photo. They replayed your smile for them. They recalled even the tiniest facial expressions on your face. And all of a sudden, they could not get away from one impossible idea. It trailed them everywhere. They made an effort to laugh it off. They attempted to persuade themselves that we're daydreaming. However, each and every time they considered you, the identical query came back even more powerful than before. Why do you appear so unbelievable? Are you familiar? Not in a typical manner, but in a manner that makes someone briefly stops breathing. Because it seems as though their heart has. I've known you for ages. Hold on until the very end because something significant is awaiting you and the real reason behind. This sensation is even more startling than anyone anticipated. The peculiar thing is that they never intended for this to occur. They were leading a typical life until one. Everything changed in an ordinary moment. As you go through past memories, observing passers-by or just gazing off into the distance, your face reappeared in their minds. However, something was different this time. Your presence seemed to serve as a reminder them of a lovely tale they had long since forgotten. They were unable to explain it. Every effort to move on only pulled them back in your direction. Despite their self-promises, they would cease considering you. Another memory would subtly surface without caution. It got hard to concentrate. Friends saw that something had changed. Their grin vanished whenever you. They thought of their name since they were attempting to unravel a mystery their heart comprehended before their minds ever could. Avoid skipping. Everything was altered by the subsequent discovery. They had faith in you. They began to wonder if your appearance had a deeper significance. Rather than accident, whether there was a. Why did your face seem so familiar? If fate had discreetly put someone who reflected in front of them the future they had secretly envisioned. Roughly for years. Their feelings have now turned into uncontrollable. Every day that goes by only deepens the mystery. Stronger rather than weaker. They are curious as to why your eyes appear to convey the serenity they have sought all of their lives. What makes you smile? Reassuring even when viewed from a distance. Why? Your presence has such a strong effect without uttering a single word. They are going utterly crazy over it. Since there is no rational explanation that feels no longer powerful enough. They've arrived at the stage where It is not appropriate to act as though nothing is happening. Longer feasible. They sense deep down that meeting you was never arbitrary, and that one was concealed. The reality of your existence has been awaiting its revelation at precisely the ideal time. This is the part, though, that nobody anticipated. The solution they are going to find has nothing to do with typical attraction. It is linked to a realization, therefore unexpected, that it will entirely change their perception of you permanently. Continue until the very end. Avoid skipping. There's a massive object waiting for you, as the following instant is the one they will keep in mind for the remainder of their life. A silent change started within them after that insight. Additionally, nothing has felt typical since. Every location they went to in some way made them think of you. Every discussion appeared to come full circle to the same unresolved query. They even caught themselves making comparisons. Strangers to your grin, only to discover nobody felt the same way you did. Perfection was never the goal. It had to do with familiarity that reached greater than words. They began to question whether your face represented the level of tranquility they experienced, been looking for without even realizing it. That thought would not go away. They became stronger the harder they battled it. It developed. Avoid skipping because of what came next took them entirely by surprise. One night, while browsing through forgotten photos and recollections, they abruptly froze. Their pulse grew louder than their ideas. That moment, for some reason, made them acknowledge that your presence wasn't just remarkable. It sparked a hope that they thought had vanished forever. They muttered to themselves that getting to know someone like you ought to have been unattainable. However, in some way it occurred. After that moment, they ceased attempting to get away from the emotion because every effort simply enhanced your reputation. Return with even more brilliance. Then the time arrived that really disturbed them. Someone mentioned in passing that people are occasionally attracted to people who remind them about the future they covertly desire as opposed to the past they recall. They were hit like lightning by those words. All of the suppressed feelings suddenly started making sense. They became aware that they weren't enthralled with just the way you look. They were taken aback by what you represented by presence. When they thought about tomorrow, in some way, your face was there already. When they imagined joy, your grin silently showed up without authorization. They were unable to explain why this continued to occurring, but it was no longer able to deny. Sleep duration decreased. Their voices grew louder. Every typical day became a new one. Look for solutions they were unable to locate anywhere else. Continue until the very end. There is something enormous in store for you. They have now arrived at a stage where quiet feels more weighty than speaking. They're starting to realize that ignoring these feelings could be the greatest error of their lives. However, it seems equally terrifying to reveal them, because they worry that anything could alter the moment the truth is finally revealed. Emerges. Now, a bigger mystery is unfolding. They have seen one particular detail about you that they have never disclosed with anybody. Each time they recall it, their hearts races more quickly than before. They continually remind themselves of their overanalyzing, but they know in their hearts there is a remarkable event taking place. Every route they've taken seems to have been stealthily approaching this single awareness. They no longer think that your meeting was an incident. Rather, they believe they were destined to acknowledge anything that is concealed within you, that no one else has yet to notice. They are now standing after that finding, unable to move in between fear and hope. Anyway, avoid skipping the next step, since they are getting ready to take could alter everything that exists between you two. They're getting closer than ever to creating a. They have also put off making a decision for a long time. Lengthy. And when that time eventually arrives, the real reason why their appearance had a profound impact on them become more apparent than you two have ever envisioned. A decision opens the following chapter. They can't avoid it anymore. And after that, once a decision is made, nothing will ever feel the same once more. Everything shifted as soon as they ceased battling what their hearts had been attempting to express all along. Rather than ignoring your recollection, they gave themselves permission to sit in, quiet down, and pose their query. Most feared. Why did they feel that way about your face? Comprehended prior to a single discussion had really started? There was never a verbal response. It arrived in feelings they were no longer able to command. They were grinning for no apparent reason. Rationale. Then, a few moments later, turning into overwhelmed after realizing how you had become deeply comfortable in their ideas. In some way, all of their plans included the potential to reunite with you. Each future-oriented dream carried a recognizable presence that appeared exactly similar to you. They even started to notice small indicators everywhere that made them think of your kindness, your serene demeanor, and the way they couldn't get your picture out of their heads. Avoid skipping. There's a massive object waiting for you. Because they were shaken by the next realization. More than anything in the past. At last, they acknowledged that this wasn't merely admiration. It was the sensation of witnessing someone who represented all they had kept hidden. Hoped that life would eventually bring them. That admission stayed hidden inside their heart, but concealing it grew more challenging with each passing an hour. Then an unforeseen discussion pushed everything even more. A casual question about why was asked by someone close to them. They had just gotten extremely preoccupied. They grinned and shifted the topic, but they were aware of the true cause on the inside. They could no longer act as though your being there was meaningless. For the first time, they envisioned what it would be like if you suddenly vanished forever from their lives. Moreover, that one thought gave them a fear they had never known. It was then that they realized how important you really were. The odd thing was that they continued to couldn't rationally explain it. Nothing about their emotions came next. Standard guidelines. Your face had come to represent consolation, optimism, and the future they desired to hold on to. They had no obsession with appearances. They were enthralled with the feeling they felt a presence emerge within them. Continue until the very end. Don't skip, because there is another reality that ready to emerge, and when they confront it, there won't be a way back. They are on the verge of making a choice that might make two people happy, closer than before, or leave them perplexed. What may have been, forever. They are now at the start of a situation they never anticipated encountering. Their hearts are constantly telling them that these feelings can no longer be concealed. Feasible. Their feelings intensify with each passing day. More powerful, and each quiet moment becomes heavier than the previous one. They continue to reenact imagined discussions, wondering how you would respond if you were aware of everything they had been carrying within. Would you grin? Would you comprehend? Or would you never understand how your presence profoundly changed their existence? They are followed by those queries. Everywhere, never going away. Avoid skipping. There's a massive object waiting for you, because they are getting ready for the next step. Is not like anything they have previously completed. They are gaining the bravery to disclose a reality they have long guarded. Lengthy. Additionally, the words they are going to speaking could alter both of their paths, your lives indefinitely. Even they will be left wondering what comes next. Unable to speak, since once the quiet is broken at last, there won't be a way to go back to the life they had before. One choice has been expanding within them, and each hour that goes by strengthens it. They've arrived at the stage where acting as though nothing is wrong feels impossible. Now, every recollection of you has a distinct meaning from what it formerly meant. Your face is no longer visible to them as anything that just drew their attention. Focus. They believe it to be the cause of their whole outlook on love has altered. The more they attempted to disregard this feelings, the louder their heart grew. The tiniest reminder of you could alter their mood entirely. A well-known tune, a calm night, or a passing person's haphazard smile would in some way return them to the same location. Your recollection. Avoid skipping. There's a massive object waiting for you. When they have at last acknowledged one truth they denied for a very long time. They are no longer looking for an justification. They are trying to find the bravery to give up hiding. They secretly think that if they wait much longer, they might forfeit the opportunity that they have been quietly wishing. That insight is no longer feasible to flee, and it is driving them in the direction of a moment that might make all the difference. Their heart's internal pressure keeps constructing since they've begun picturing how life would be if you were never told the truth by them. Each iteration of that future feels empty. They are always questioning whether you were put in their path by destiny for a justification that is too significant to overlook. The peculiar thing is that the response feels the same every time. Your presence has become the serenity they were unaware they required. And the way you look reminds them of a peaceful future rather than ambiguity. They can't just go on because of this. Every effort to forget you alone enhances their sense of connectedness. Continue until the very end. Avoid skipping. There's a massive object waiting for you. Since they've already made a silent, make a self-promise. The next time life offers them a genuine chance, they'll give up sheltering behind dread. They will cease persuading themselves that keeping quiet is safer than being truthful. For the first time, they're prepared to allow their emotions to guide them rather than their skepticism. Now, the last obstacle separating you two are starting to fall apart. They sense that a pivotal moment is growing nearer with each sunrise. The inquiries that formerly occupied the mind is gradually being replaced by assurance. Additionally, that assurance is more stronger than anything they've ever knowledgeable. They no longer question why your face feels unforgettable. They acknowledge that some individuals come into our life with a sentiment, things words can never adequately convey. You started to feel that way about them. Moreover, as a result, they are getting ready to act in a way they previously thought they would never be brave enough to accomplish it. Avoid skipping. Continue until the very end. There is something enormous in store for you. The next action they do will disclose the reality that they have long guarded too much time. And when that time eventually comes, your two lives might start a distinct chapter, one that they had surreptitiously fantasized since the day your paths first met. Nothing feels the same inside of them. No longer. The fear that used to prevent them from speaking is gradually losing its strength and being replaced by an overwhelming sense that time is running out. Unwilling to wait any longer, they have begun to observe that somehow, the route they select returns to you. It doesn't matter how busy the day lengthens or the number of distractions emerge before them. Your face somehow constantly comes back to their thoughts during the quietest of times. They no longer question why your Their appearance had a profound impact on them. Because they now see that it was. It's never just about looks. It was about the coziness, warmth, and every time they fantasized, they felt hope. That insight is no longer feasible. To overlook. Avoid skipping. There's a massive object waiting for you. Since they are currently positioned at the edge of a choice that will decide anything that follows. Hiding is what their hearts are telling them. Silence has already endured for a long time. Too long, and each day that goes by only makes it harder to maintain the truth within. For the first time, they have started getting ready for the potential of sharing everything with you. They have repeated the dialogue in their thoughts several times, wondering how they ought to start, what terms they ought to decide, and whether you would acknowledge the authenticity of each phrase. Each version concludes in the same manner. They can no longer act as though you are there. Hasn't changed them. They've realized that getting to know you altered the how people perceive the actual future. Their previously ambiguous dreams have a distinct image. And in some way, that you are constantly included in the photo. This explains why they appear agitated, why they seem preoccupied, and why the tiniest reminder that you have the power to transform their feelings. Continue until the very end. Avoid skipping. There's a massive object waiting for you. Since they have discreetly determined that the next real chance they won't be squandered. They will prioritize honesty this time over dread, even if their voice falters while talking. And right now, they've been attempting. Must stay away from is almost here. They are aware of that one deep down. Unexpected meeting, a single message, or one. A straightforward discussion could uncover everything they've been lugging. Quiet. They are no longer attempting to flee the connection since they at last think it came into their lives for a significant rationale. The enigma that once motivated them restless has evolved into certainty, and that assurance is providing them with the bravery they never imagined possess. They think that after the truth is stated, nothing will ever come back to the how it used to be. Avoid skipping. Continue until the very end. There is something enormous in store for you. Since the following chapter starts with a confession they are unable to maintain. Concealed. A revelation so surprising that even they didn't think they would possess the courage to say it out loud. When such words eventually escape their heart, the tale of the two of you will reach its most memorable moment. Not yet. As they get closer to that point, the more difficult it is to conceal what is taking place within them. Every justification. They used to be silent, but they've started to disintegrate. They continually remind themselves that they ought to wait for the ideal moment, but they heart continues to murmur that the ideal it's already time. It seems like every morning is different. The chance is slipping away. Additionally, each sunset serves as a reminder of how long they have conveyed these feelings silently. Them out loud. They have begun to focus on every single thing about you. Not because they are looking for defects, but because each detail in some way enhances the sense that their future belongs to their present. Avoid skipping. There is something enormous in store for you. They have at last acknowledged to themselves that what initially drew their interest it was never just your appearance. It was the amazing tranquility of your presence introduced into a life that has felt apprehensive for far too long. That insight is now the one truth from which they can no longer escape, and it is altering each choice they make. Now, yet another surprising finding has shook them even more. They've been seeing that whenever they envision the happiest possible future, you don't need to push your image into it. You're there already. It occurs organically and effortlessly even though their hearts took a long time to decide, before their minds could comprehend it, that they are at a loss for words. They are constantly perplexed as to how one individual could become the calm focal point of numerous aspirations without ever requesting that location. They recreate previous exchanges, minor moments, little recollections, looking. Everything changed at that very moment. However, they are unable to locate it because there was never a single instance. Little by little, it occurred until one day they discovered your face had turned into the representation of every hope they declined to give up. Continue until the very end. Avoid skipping.